think we're certainly in the early stages of a bull market at this point. Typically the bull market cycle lasts for a certain period after the halving, and so we're still in the early innings. I think there's very stiff inflows from ETFs buying about 2 times the Bitcoin mined per day, MicroStrategy and the other Bitcoin treasury companies buying another 2 times, and the retail buyers and dollar cost average investors. So really, there's a lot of inflow. I think temporarily there's some consolidation because some earlier investors, sort of midterm investors, profit taking. But that overlay would set us up for a price where you start to see Bitcoin competing with gold, perhaps pulling money out of gold ETFs into Bitcoin ETFs. And then, of course, if the treasuries come in, like the sovereign treasuries, the Bitcoin reserves, that would be something where you'd see sovereign competition. And as soon as one of the bigger countries jumps in, I think the others will feel forced to follow suit. So that would, all bets would be off if that happens. Now, of course, institutional adoption, I think the family offices are faster, more agile, but the institutions are in play. You can see that the ETF 13F filings, which shows you the institutions that have bought Bitcoin via the ETFs, is about 30% institutional. I think there's a lot more capital in the institutional space of pension funds and mutual funds, so there's a lot of room for capital to come in this cycle and into the next cycle.
So there you have it from Adam Beck, and we'll talk about that clip here in a little bit. And with that, we'll tap into Crypto Cruise. Sean's coming back at you, another cryptocurrency video. Getting straight into it, the current time it's recording, Bitcoin's coming in at 94.2K. Now, Adam Beck is sitting here telling you something is brewing because you have institutions buying 2 times the amount of Bitcoin that's being created on a daily basis. Also, the ETFs are buying it. And also, you got retail investors that are dollar cost averaging. So, something is brewing. There is going to be a volatile run up to the upside. And you don't want to get caught on the wrong side of the trade. Take a look at the Bitcoin price. As we see, we are holding above current support. Look here. We came out down. We blasted through this resistance level. We fell through this. We fell off a cliff, and we're holding above it at the current time it's recording. This is on the weekly chart. Let's look at on a lower time. Look on the daily. So if we see right here, Bitcoin has closed on Friday as of current time it's recording right here. So we'll see what time we open at the start of the US Open. But right now we got to close here, and there's a gap. There's a gap here from 96.9 to where we are right now. This 2.67% move to the upside. So could we fill this gap very quickly? It would look something like this on a daily basis. We would come back up and fill that up very quickly. In the grand scheme of things, that's just a 2% move, nothing too crazy, but right now, at the current time is recording, pay attention to that gap. Fear and greed is at 64. And some breaking news, Warren Buffett, who is known to call Bitcoin rat poison, has now admitted in a private meeting that if he wasn't geriatric and approaching his expiration date, meaning he's old, that he would buy Bitcoin. He recommends anybody under 40 to avoid unnecessary monetary debasement buying Bitcoin with at least a 2.5% allocation. The Bitcoin Bros spoke on this years ago when Warren Buffett was calling Bitcoin rat poison. Why you shouldn't listen to this, because he's just basing it off of his own investment thesis. He didn't have a need for Bitcoin at the time. But as you see, he says himself, he doesn't really buy it because he feels like he has a lot more days behind him than he has in front of him. And if he was of a certain age, he definitely will be buying it. So take that for what it's worth. Bitcoin dominance is still intact, still on its upwards trajectory, up towards that 72% range. Will we get that blast up sooner rather than later? 64.7%. Also, this is bullish news here. 75% of US merchants plan to accept Bitcoin and crypto within the next 48 months. So what's going to happen over the next 4 years is going to melt faces. This is every US merchant. That means any business you go into, you'll be able to buy things with Bitcoin or stablecoin, USDC, USDT, but things are changing. The tide is turning. And right here, this might be a huge mistake. Governor Katie Hobbs rejected Arizona's strategic Bitcoin reserve bill, even though both the state House and Senate had approved it. So this one person right here rejected Bitcoin's strategic reserve on a state level. This doesn't mean anything to do with the federal level and what Trump's talking about. This is a strategic Bitcoin reserve at a state level. This is going to be a big regret for the state of Arizona because they had an opportunity to be the front run this, and right now you have people like this that are stopping innovation. CBBI says that we are not at the peak yet, and the confidence level is a 73. And as you see here, we come up into the dark red, cool off, dark red, cool off. Now we're getting sort of oranges, not back into the dark red just quite yet. Could we be getting ready to rip to the upside over the next week or two? Bitcoin bros think so. Michael Saylor, too much blue, not enough orange. He is continuing to buy. So he's adding more to MicroStrategy stock. Nothing new there. At the current time of this recording, we're seeing MicroStrategy closed around 394, but we had a price reduction. So if we look on Robinhood, we can see overnight the price dropped about $9 down to 385. And that would take us back to about right here as far as the price action goes. Still intact, still bullish. Everything looks all good here. But there's a lot going on. You got institutions buying. You have a pending U.S. strategic reserve that's going to cause global FOMO for Bitcoin. And we're about to see where that takes Bitcoin. Jack Mallers is weighing in.
You know, humans own about $900 trillion worth of stuff right now. That's currency, real estate, art, collectibles, precious metals like gold, right? $900 trillion worth of stuff. It's estimated that about half of that is monetized, meaning they own the stuff, they own the house, they own the art, they own the precious metal, not to consume it, not to live in the house, not to look at the art and be like, oh, I love this art, but because they're trying to store wealth, they're trying to preserve value, they're trying to get to sell it later. So that means the market opportunity to store wealth, store value, persist value you create for the world today and bring it to tomorrow is about $400 to $500 trillion. And that is where product market fit and extreme demand is from Larry Fink, from the bond market, from the treasury market, from retail consumers, from those living paycheck to paycheck. That's the product market we see in Strike. And the payment stuff, I would say less so. So when people say, can Bitcoin go higher than 100K? Well, the way I think about it is right now, Bitcoin's about $1.5 trillion in market cap. It's going after a $400 to $500 trillion opportunity. And that's in purchasing power terms. So in dollar terms, that'll go up as the currency weakens. So I think Bitcoin still has a 400 to 500x left in it. And we see that as a company. We onboard institutions, businesses, retail. We support the dollar, the pound, the euro. So we see the same demand globally, the same growth prospects globally. And that's where the product market fit is for us.